Everybody? What's going on? This is Essence China. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me clearly. What's up? We're still getting a little set up. If you are watching and you can type in the chat, let me know who's watching, who's on with me, where you at. What's up, IG? What's up tonight? Tonight, we are going to kind of piggyback off of what we talked about on Tuesday. I know I said I was going to be live on Thursday, but one of my team members got a little sick. Let's just say that got a little sick, and so we had to postpone for Thursday. And so, what's up, Sassy Diva? What's up, Cathania? Let me know also too. Can you make sure you can hear me? But also, were you on the live on Monday? Were you on that live? And did you get the word? And did you write down the tips? We were talking about consistency. Did you do your homework? That's the question. And I told y'all my consistency is being consistent with y'all. That's my homework. That's what I've been called to do. But are you doing your homework? What's up, Lisa? PG County. I love you. Aw, thank you. Custom wigs. So yeah, did you do your homework? So we talked about, are you growing or are you going in circles? Am I growing or am I going in circles? And it came from just some questions I was even asking myself about where I'm at in my life and the things that I have been promised or the things that God has shown me. And I feel like there's no growth taking place. I feel like ain't nothing really transpiring, and at the same time, I felt like I can't see y'all on IG as close as I want to, but I also felt like, am I doing the right thing? Like, sometimes we can find ourselves like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what's off? And sometimes when that happens, we start feeling like there's no traction being made, and especially when we see, other people making traction, sometimes we can get into that comparison game. And so I definitely wanted to kind of talk to you all about that. But let me know, were you on the last live on Monday? Were you on that live? And did you do your homework? What are you about to be consistent with? What are you going to be consistent with? And so I'm going to share a little story. I told y'all to remind me about push. Remember, that was the key word, to remind me about a story that I was going to tell. So y'all let me know if you were on when I talked about push. What's up, Coach Tasha? What's up? Yeah, a little bit more. Huh? All right, so we just waiting for a few more people to come on. What's up, Tish? I can see your comments, so make sure that you are. What's up, Simply Beautiful? First time here. What's up? What's up? What's up, Mika? Were you on last night? Were you on Monday? Were you on Monday? And did you do your homework? That's what I need to know. Listen, I done turned this thing from an edge slayer into everything. I use it for any and everything. I'm amazing, Tosh. Thank you. I am amazing. So today I want to talk about what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? You got to affirm yourself. So we're going to be talking about affirmations. We're going to talk about how to step into the fullness of who you are, why you need courage, why you need bravery, why the things that you're really called to do is going to require you to move in courage. And so many times people find themselves being stuck. So many times people feel like, I know I'm not supposed to be in this place, but really it's the fear that's holding me back. Really it's the unwillingness to do the hard things. The unwillingness to do the hard things. And so my question to you is, what is the thing that you've been told to do that you're unwilling to do? Right? For me, it was going live. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. I personally, this is a very uncomfortable space for me to be in, but at the same time, I know it's what I'm supposed to do, right? I believe it's what I'm supposed to do. So what is it that you're supposed to do that you're not doing? What's up, Fatima? What is it that you're supposed to do that you are not doing? Hold on real quick, y'all. What are you supposed to be doing that you're not doing? So let's get to it. When we're going in circles, a lot of times we're going in circles because we're not familiar with the fact that there's some level of obedience that we need to do. So let me give y'all a story. When my father was in the hospital, before he got in the hospital, I felt God telling me that I was supposed to start this women's group, right? And the women's group was supposed to be called Push. So this is a story about Push. And so I thought it was supposed to be about helping women become more confident and become more, just walking in their purpose and finding out what they're supposed to be here for. And because I've been blessed in business, and y'all know Rare Essence Academy, Rare Essence Studio, that's what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And so I created this group, and I had invited these clients and friends and people to my house. And then my father got sick and he went in the hospital. And when he went in the hospital, I had no idea that he was going to pass away, but I felt that, I needed to go ahead and postpone this until we figured out what was going on. And so I postponed this meeting. And when I postponed the meeting, my father, he ended up passing away. And later on that year, I had maybe about a month after he passed, I had this dream. And in this dream, it was like I was having a meeting with women, and it was at my mother's house, and there was 3 women in the meeting. And it quickly turned into a very large conference center. I don't know if y'all ever had dreams where you're in a place and then immediately it goes to something else, a whole nother scene. And so that's what happened in this particular dream. And so it went into a conference center, and I woke up the next morning because I was like, what was that about? It went from 3 women to a whole bunch of women. And I wrote the dream down because many times when I have dreams, I know that there's a reason for me to have them, and therefore I know I need to document them because a lot of times dreams fade, right? And so when you have dreams, especially when you're there's some significance to this, but I'm not quite sure what it is, it's so important to document your dreams. And so I documented the dream, and I completely went on about my life. Obviously, I'm grieving. My father's just passed. My father was very instrumental in my life and helping me know who I was, my identity, and also for me to believe in myself. And so when he's gone now, I'm just like, what's going on here, right? But God still had pressed this upon me. So that was the end of 2018. So 2019 comes, and I'm just kind of in a daze trying to figure out what's life, because I had stopped doing hair, and I was trying to figure out, who am I? What is my identity outside of the roles that I play, outside of being a hairstylist, outside of being a salon owner? Who is Essence? And so many of you may be even asking that question, who am I? And even if you're not necessarily asking that question consciously, sometimes our wandering around in our wilderness is really just saying, I don't necessarily know who I am to the degree that I need to know who I am. Right? And so that's why it's important to ask God, God, who is it that you say that I am? What is it that you're calling me to do, and who that I'm called to be? And so 2019, then 2020, my mother gets sick and she gets diagnosed with cancer. And so I'm going through this whole whirlwind in the midst of me trying to figure out who I am and what's next. Right? And so 2021 comes in last year, and I'm at the salon. And one of the girls at the salon asked me, she was like, Essence, what's up with Push? And I'm like, Push? What are you talking about? I literally, it had been so long, it had left my mind. I couldn't even really remember what she was talking about. So then she looked at me real crazy, Essence, what's up with Push? And then I realized, oh yeah, God did give me an assignment. He did tell me something I was supposed to do, and I had completely laid it aside, y'all. Just laid it aside. And so I came home, and I was on my balcony, and I just started praying. I was like, God, if you said that I'm supposed to start this women's group, I need you to confirm it, because 1, it's not something I'm even comfortable in doing. And 2, what am I supposed to do with this? Because if you've given me this, it's because you have a plan and a purpose in it. It's not necessarily anything of my own thought process. Like I said, I thought this was going to be a group for entrepreneurs, right? And so with that being said, I prayed, and I was like, is the group even supposed to be called Push? Because that's what I thought I heard at that time, but I just laid it on, I laid it out. So Fast forward, maybe about a week, not even maybe 2-3 weeks later, I get this message from this lady on Facebook. Now, mind y'all, we ain't never messaged one another before. I probably met her one time. So I'm just like, okay, I see this message, and she sends me a picture of myself. So I'm looking at the picture like, okay, I took this picture. Obviously, it's me. Why is she sending me a picture of me? And she said, I posted your picture a few years ago with a motivational quote inspired by your push forward attitude. And push was in capital letters. So I was just like, okay. So when I seen push, to me, that was the answer to say, yes, this is what I've called you to do. And yes, it is supposed to be called push. So I continue moving forward. And a lot of times when God is calling you to come out of a season, he's going to call you to do something that you don't feel comfortable in doing, right? Because he's stretching you. He's showing you what's in you, the potential that you have, the gifts that you have that have yet to been cultivated and or expressed. And so I'm like, first of all, if anybody know me, I don't really be having people at my house, much less have a women's group, right? So I'm like, okay, God, I heard you. I'm going to go ahead and do this group. So one day I'm at the salon, and let me take this back. I was at my mother's house one day, and I came across this piece of paper that said Dr. Essence China Farmer on it. And I was just thrown off, like, what is this piece of paper? It's in my mother's bathroom. It's all types of makeup on it. And so I started dusting the piece of paper off to figure out, like, what is this? Because I'm not even a doctor, right? So I'm like, where did this piece of paper come from? Why is it in my mother's bathroom? I don't even live at her house. And why is all this makeup on it? So as I start to read it, y'all, I started to realize that this is a piece of paper and something my father wrote over 20 years ago. And how I understood how old it was because I wanted to be a neonatologist when I was in school, when I was in high school. And so when I seen Dr. Essence China Farmer and I started reading it, I started to realize that somehow or another, this paper just came out of nowhere, right? And my father was referring to me as a doctor, but more so in a spiritual sense. And so I took the piece of paper, I brought it home, I framed it because it meant so much to me that here it is. My father been gone for 3 years, and I just found this piece of paper randomly. So I framed it, and I was at the salon one day, and we were talking about this piece of paper because my father, he used to talk in code. And so much of what he said had a prophetic meaning and a reference to it. And as I was reading through it again, like these thoughts were just coming to my mind, like, oh my gosh, like this has so much more significance to today than I even know. And so actually, I probably need to get it out so I can read it. Let me get it out real quick. 1 second, y'all. And so as I'm reading this, I'm just like, hold up. So let me read this to y'all, because I really want you to understand when God works in your life, which I do believe that he really wants to work in all of our lives. Like, he does things in a way that there's no question that it's him, right? And so for me, I'm reading this piece of paper, and I'm like, I was supposed to find this today, in this season of my life. Hold on, let me find it real quick. And then y'all gonna understand all of these keys and how God really will lead you. And so many times people are like, how do I let go? And how do I really let God lead? And how do I trust him? And many times God will have you like on a conveyor belt to where like you are just surrendered to this process. When you think about when you're in the airport and you get on one of those things where you just riding along, you don't really have to put a lot of effort into that. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're just rolling through. And so when God starts to orchestrate things in your life, like his touch is on it so much so that there is no question that he is involved in this, right? Hopefully I can find this paper. Here it goes right here. All right, so let me read this to y'all so y'all can understand. So it says, Dr. Essence China Farmer, this is the golden one, and I expect golden accomplishments in this golden era. Through her innocence and ignorance, she shall be a hope in our future. With God-given honesty as quick as lightning, it will be molded and even purified, but never controlled. For this one is truly the free spirit, as fire and rain and wind from heaven. Obedience, my child, you are my gift and motivation for tomorrow. You must use this special intellect for the good of God's people, and you understand who these neonatal are. Mind you, I wanted to be a neonatologist at the time. They await the anointed doctor. Come on. Destined to serve. For who God gives much, much is required. Your brilliance is for benevolence. Never believe it's just for you. Your destiny may seem a burden sometimes, but through Christ Jesus, we can and have been redeemed. So go forth, for essence is a part of infinity as it walks into eternity. So first of all, when I read this paper, I'm like, first of all, I didn't even know my father was a poet, okay? And so I'm at the salon and I'm talking to them about like how some of this stuff just does not necessarily make sense to me. But I know it was supposed to be for me to find it at this time. And so I type a lot in my phone because a lot of times God gives me these words and these just like revelations. And so I went and typed the word push in my phone to remember what was God saying to me in 2018 about push, that I could even remember like what was going on. So when I go type up push in my phone, I happen to come across this poem I wrote for my father. So when my father passed away, I wrote this poem, and I recited it at his graduation. I call it a graduation because, you know, when we transition, like we just go into another level, right? And so I recited it, and I completely forgot that I ever even wrote this poem, to be honest with you. And push was in this, the word pushing was in this poem. So I'm like, let me go back and read this. So I go back and read it, and it completely blew me away because one of the lines that made no sense to me in his poem was the very last line. He said, so go forth, for essence is a part of infinity as it walks into eternity. So I'm like, what the heck does that mean, right? So I'm reading the poem I wrote for my father, and I said, and though he left me in this experience we call life, he indeed left me a deposit, a mantle, a perspective, an intangible inheritance that will far surpass me because I vow to carry out his legacy and message into eternity. So as soon as I seen into eternity, I'm like, hold up, why does that ring true to something I've read before? And I went back to go see what my father had wrote, and I was blown away. I was blown away because it was almost like my father was like, so go forth. I'm on my way to eternity. Like I'm going into another realm, and I'm passing you the baton because this is an infinite baton that is going to continue even after you. And I wrote a poem for his services that he never even knew about. And it literally was like a call and response. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with call and responses, but it's like this person says something and this person like pretty much finishes it, but it's in real time. And we're talking about this piece of paper is like 20 years old. So my father said, so go forth, for essence is a part of infinity as it walks into eternity. And I said, Daddy, I vow to carry out your message and legacy into eternity. And so for me, I got a visual of a relay race where somebody is passing the baton, and I just like, okay, I got you, Daddy. Like, go ahead, you gotta go and do what you gotta do, and I got it. And so the reason why that was so significant to me, because I'm just like, I had no knowledge of what my father wrote, and this paper is 20 some odd years old, and here it is. I done wrote a poem that answers what he said. And so anyway, when I seen that, I just was like, straight up got chills. So I'm at the salon. Now I got to bring out full speed. I'm at the salon, and I'm talking to Adelaide. And if y'all know Adelaide, she is a part of the company. And she's like my sister and everything. And so as I'm talking to her, I'm like, I don't understand because I'm not a doctor. This doesn't even make sense for today. And she was like, you know what, Essence, this is crazy. And I'm like, what? She was like, I've always wanted to be a midwife. Because ever since I had my children, like I've had natural births. And because of that, I've always wanted to help women birth. And so I was like, okay, and what they got to do with anything? And she was like, your father is referring to you as a doctor and not just any doctor in this piece of paper. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, so as she starts talking, then it starts to like come together. Like obviously a midwife helps a woman deliver, right? And what does a woman have to do when she's giving labor, y'all? She has to push. So this whole time, God is telling me to start a women's group called Push. I don't even know why it's called Push. I didn't make this name up. I don't have no acronym for it. You know, people say like pray until something happens, and I'm like, yeah. But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, it's called Push. So we're in the salon, and I'm just like, this is crazy. The whole time God knew what he called me to do and why he called me to do it. And I'm just now getting knowledge of it. And so what I'm trying to tell you and explain to you is that many times God will cause you to do something and you're not necessarily aware of like all of why he's calling you to do it. But there's so much, I guess, weight on it because we don't completely see the full picture. And so I started this women's group in October called Push, and I invited these women over to my house. And I'm still like, if I hadn't got all the signs to know that I was supposed to do this group, I would have, for real, just not done it because it was very uncomfortable to me to be in that position, right? And so I did this group. And I knew that I was going to have to lead with vulnerability. And so many of you who were called to lead, like, you're going to have to go through your own process, right? And so I did this group, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it for a year. I'm gonna do this group for a year, once a month or whatever. And so I did it for about 4 or 5 months, and then COVID kicked up a little bit more, and then I just kind of fell off. And I kind of want to even like help y'all understand like why obedience is so important. And so in one of the meetings, a young lady came to visit me. And so in the group meeting, we were just talking about healing because much of what God is calling me to talk about is like healing. So I'm like, okay. And what ended up happening? So at the end of the meeting, she says, I feel like I need to talk to my father. And so I'm like, okay, if that's what God is leading you to do, then, definitely talk to your father. And so fast forward, she ends up seeing her father and they reconcile and their relationship is just going amazing. And she calls me one day and tells me, she was like, my father just passed away. And she was like, I'm just like blown away because I just had a conversation with him yesterday. It was his birthday. And I FaceTime and screenshot his face and everything. And she just told me, thank you, because had she not necessarily done that, or had not she come to this group meeting and God led her to do that she would not even had a good conversation or a good relationship with him prior to that. And so I say that to say so many times we are not realizing why we're doing what we're called to do, but God honestly has those answers, right? And so what ended up happening was I had stopped doing these push meetings like a couple months ago. And I stopped doing them, not for no particular reason, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can not do that, right? And I was just going to get back to it whenever I got back to it. So I'm in the salon one day. I'm on the couch. I get this text message from a good friend of mine, and it just was out the blue. Like, he knows I'm supposed to be doing this group called Push, and I literally got like a warning. You know what I mean? And when I say a warning, it was just like just snatched me up by my coats. And so let me pull this text so y'all can even understand. It was just literally in the middle of the day. So he says, Essence, God is asking me to tell you that plans never trump obedience. He has asked you to do some things, little sister, regardless of how they look. Come on now, because some of us are not doing what we're supposed to do because we're thinking about how they look. Regardless of how they sound or feel, be obedient to all that he has told you to do, and you shall be greatly blessed. Hard heads suffer wrong and long in this season. Daughter of Zion, be obedient to all that he has told you to do immediately when he tells you to do those things. The things which you have let go, pick them back up and be obedient to them, because in your heart you know he said it, and again, you will be greatly blessed. And so I'm sitting on the couch of the salon. I'm thinking to myself, like, what is he talking about? God ain't told me to do nothing. Like, and so I called him immediately just to tell him that, and he doesn't answer his phone. So I text him back, and I'm like, okay, I hear you, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be obedient to. And he ends up texting me back, and he was like, I'm still in prayer. I'll reach back out when I'm released. So not only did he text me in the middle of the day, he texted me in the middle of prayer. So this was something that came directly from the throne room. And sometimes God will give people a word for you to remind you to get back on what you're called to do, because you'll find yourself stuck when you're being disobedient. So I've been knowing what God told me to do. I've been knowing God said I need to go live and talk to people, talk to women, but I've been fearful of it. I've been just like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait until I feel comfortable and confident enough. And so many of us, and I'm talking to some of y'all, you are waiting to feel comfortable and confident enough. No, you got to do it afraid. Like, you have to literally get out there and do what he called you to do, and know that if he told you to do it, he's going to provide, right? And so are you going to be shaken? Yes. Are you going to be scared? Yes. But there is no growth in the comfort zone. There is no growth outside of being stretched. And so we don't really understand what is inside of us. We don't really understand how there is untapped potential that is waiting to come forth, and it's not just for us, it is for the people. And I think to myself, had I not did that group, my friend probably would have never spoke to her father, right? And she would have missed that opportunity. And so we don't even know why we're being called to do what we got to do. So you have to do it afraid. And so one of the things I want to help you all understand is, like, when it comes to getting out of a fearful place, like, you have to change what you are thinking. And we talked about that in the last live. Like, we got to go from a place of doubt and fear and the lies that we've accepted, and we now have to replace those things. How do we replace those things? We got to first figure out what it is that we've run into, right? And then secondly, we have to get to a place where we're just like, okay, well, what's the truth, or what's going to get me to that place? So for me, I had to remind myself that, okay, one of the lies that I bought into when it came to speaking or even doing this women's event was, I don't have nothing to say, right? So a lot of times we think to ourselves, I don't have anything to say, or if that's what God has called you to do, whatever lie that you bought into will keep you in that stuck place. And so I had to revert all of what I had said to myself and flip that statement around and say, no, I might not have something to say, but God has something to say, because if he's called me to it, he wants to use me as a vessel. But at the same time, it's like, how can he use you as a vessel if you are unsurrendered, right? And so I had to write down all the scriptures that spoke to, he will speak through me. He will speak to me. Like, those are the things that we have to stand on. Those are the things that we have to fortify in our being so we can begin to step out and do the things that are actually going to bring us to our next place, right? They're the things that are necessary. And so I began to affirm, and not just affirm myself, I began to rehearse the rhema over my life. The rhema, the fresh and spoken word of God. And so I want everybody to ask themselves, what is God saying to you? If you feel stuck, what has he said to you that you've been unwilling to do? Now here it is. I've been unwilling to do this women's group. And then when I did do it, I did it for a little bit. And then I was like, nah, I'm going to fall back. And then I got a rebuke, or I got a warning. And it was like, no, this is something you have to do. And if you decide not to do it, you're going to be in a season of struggle, or in a lifetime lightweight of struggle, because you're out of alignment with who you are and what you're called to do, right? And so it was only two options. It's either you struggle and try to maintain this illusion of control about what you think your life should be, or you surrender to what he has said, right? And so this is my surrender. This is me saying, okay, God, like, I know I got to be obedient. You know, I know that this is what you've called me to do, so I'm going to be consistent in being obedient to what you said. I can't double dutch and be in it for 4 months and then just be like, I'm out. No, come heck or high water, hell or high water, like, I have to do this. I have to be obedient. So I really want you all to figure out, like, what is it that you are called to do, and what is it that's going to help you shift your thinking on who you are. And so you have to go and write down everything that God has said to you, because a lot of people are saying, I don't know my purpose. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel aimless. And some of it is because you have not heard what God has said about you. And I believe that God is so good. Let's say this. I believe that God is so good and so sovereign that when he's calling you to be somebody and to do something, he's allowing things to come your way. People, words, you being able to even see somebody doing what it is that you're called to do and that you're even in alignment with, and it's going to leap in your spirit because it is an indication that's the direction you're supposed to go. And so some of you already know exactly what it is, and others of you may not know, but it's not because God's not speaking. It's just because we're just not in a place to hear, right? And so as I began to remember what God had said to me, I started to write it down. And it was, when I say what he said to me, he was sending things to me through dreams, just like I told you, I had this dream with this women's group, through people speaking to me, just through so many different sources. And I realized, like, the only way that I'm going to change, the only way that I'm going to get into the place that he's called me to be is to rehearse the rhema, right? We got to drench ourselves. We have to saturate ourselves with the truth, because what has happened up until this point is that we have operated in the lie so much that we have become it. We've become this person that has been in a stuck place because we don't realize that we have bought into the lie. And so now you got to buy into the truth. You got to come into agreement with what he said about you. And so I began to write the Rhema. I wrote it all in a notebook, and I began to rehearse it. Not just the scriptures, but also the prophetic words. And so I went and got all those scriptures, went over it. That's fine. You can do it in the middle of it. I'm fine. Good, you're good. Yeah, you're good. Yeah. Oh, for this one?
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, y'all, we got to pause for a second because our battery is going out. So 1 second, y'all. Well, is it going to cut it off completely?
Yeah, because the camera's
Oh, snap. I'm sorry, y'all, if we're...
It's okay. It should turn back on.
But you actually have to click live again, or we're still live?
No, it's still
Oh, okay. All right, we had to switch batteries, y'all. So you got to rehearse the Rhema. What is the Rhema? It is the spoken word of God, the things that he has spoken to you, and you have to get to a place where you do it daily. See, what we don't realize is that by default, we have lived a lie because we have not taken ownership of the fact that we have the faculties of our own mind, and we have to be, how do I say this? We're being irresponsible if we're not programming ourselves. We're being irresponsible if we're not programming ourselves. When we walk out into this world and we see social media and we're watching movies and we're listening to music, y'all don't understand y'all being programs? Like, we would like to think that we're very independent thinkers, but so much of what we take in influences us. And so if you're not speaking life into yourself daily, if you're not speaking life into yourself and affirming who God said you are, there's no way you can come into alignment and behave in the way that he's called you to behave, because you don't even understand that it's your job. And if you don't do your job, you leave it to the world. And so what I realized is, like, it's my responsibility to program me. So I will get up every morning and recite and declare and affirm who I am. Who I am. And if you don't completely know who you are, then you need to recognize, if for nothing else, you're rare. And when you understand that you're rare, you understand that there's an authentic assignment on your life. You have work to do. We think sometimes the work to do is for people who are in these leadership positions, or, you know, they I don't even know, because we have got this idea of what a leader is completely thrown off. We all are leaders. But if we don't take up that charge and we don't become all of who we were created to be, and we don't affirm and embrace that we're rare, then we will be a follower, right? So we have to understand that we are rare. And what does it mean to be rare? Again, if you don't know who exactly you are, you have to know at least that you're rare. And to get an understanding of what it means for you to be rare is you got to break down that word. I named my business Rare Essence Academy years ago, almost 20 years ago. Literally, I got incorporated in 2004, Rare Essence Academy. Number one, because my first name is Essence, and Rare just spoke to just something completely unique and different and set apart. But the world will teach us to conform. The world will teach us that, you won't be rewarded if you are different. We only reward conformity. We only reward the people who fall in line. And we are called to live outside of the line, right? We're called to break systems. But that comes from understanding that we are rare and embracing your rareness. So when I named my company Rare Essence Academy, I didn't know this acronym. God gave it to me literally just dropped it into my spirit like about 4 or 5 years ago. And so R stands for having a revelation. A revelation of who God is. What is his character? He can't lie. And if he starts to begin to show us things about ourselves, we got to get in alignment. We have to get to the place where we trust the truth, right? He cannot lie. So when we get that revelation, now we won't question as much what he says to us. If he says, I want to make your name great, or if he says that I want to, do these things in your life, and it's so hard for us to conceive or to believe, and so we stay in this timid and scared place, we will never get there. But it's all because we're in disagreement with the truth. So we got to get in agreement and get a revelation of who he is. And the R also stands for getting a revelation of who you are, figuring out your identity, figuring out and understanding that the things that make you different make you distinct. The things that make you different make you stand out. And those are the things that we should not hide, we should embrace, right? So many of you are scared of your voice. So many of you probably don't even like your voice or don't like certain things about you. You don't even know that's actually your superpower. You don't even realize that that's actually the place that will take you through to the next place. Why? Because you stand out. And so what happens is people see people who quote unquote blow up and they think, oh, that's the way to get on. Even if they don't necessarily like think that consciously, they start to mimic what they see, not realizing, no, what made them blow up was the fact that they embraced that they were rare. You got to go find out what makes you rare. That's your superpower, right? So R stands for revelation, and A stands for authentic assignment. One second, y'all. Authentic assignment. What does that mean? That when you've been given an assignment, it is for you. Not the camera. You. Yeah. It's for you, which means that you should not be concerned about competition. You should not be concerned about comparison. And this is what gets us in a stuck place. Why? Because we look at all to the right and to the left, and we are so unfocused on who we are that we can't run our race. This is why you have to know your identity. Because when you know your identity, you're going to be able to be focused on what you're called to do. And so you have to understand that God has given you an assignment, and it is very authentic to who you are. And as you understand how authentic it is, you can embrace it as such, and you can move forward. So you have to have a revelation of who he is and who you are, and then get an understanding that it is authentic and nobody can take that place. You know what I realize is that everybody's not called to everybody. And I got that on a very, a whole nother level even more recently, because I realized I can't listen to everybody. And I'm not talking music. I'm talking about people pouring into my spirit. I personally just can't listen to everybody. And I've been looking for a voice. I've been looking for a sound. I've been looking for something that resonates, somebody that has my DNA that I can personally learn from and glean from. And y'all know how many people is online preaching and speaking and motivating and talking. And y'all know how many churches and all types of stuff that are in your city. And you just I haven't found that match yet, right? And so God helped me to even see that even as I am looking for, someone to even lead and guide me, other people are too. And if we don't stand up in the place that we are called to be, there is a group of people that are looking for you that can't find you because you have not found yourself. I'm about to turn on. There's a group of people that are looking for you. They may not know it on a conscious level, but they are looking for you and can't find you because you have yet to find yourself, or you have yet to believe in yourself, or you have yet to take up the charge and say, I'm going to do my work. So you have an authentic assignment, and it's assignment. There's an expectation that the assignment is turned in. When y'all in school, you don't just have the assignment for the assignment. You have the assignment to turn it in. And when we don't turn in our assignment, or we don't take up the charge to do our assignment, there are people who are connected to our yes. Their lives depend on it. And so I know when we were on the live the other day, some people said that what they were going to be consistent with was their devotion, and somebody else said that they were going to be consistent with getting in front of the audience that God has placed in front of them. And so we got to stop being afraid of people. We got to stop being afraid of the judgment of people, because that's what keeps us stuck. And so you have an authentic assignment. And then when we get to the second R in rare, it stands for, where is it? I don't even know what letter. It stands for readiness. Get ready to do your work. What is your work? God should already, as you get closer to him and as you continue to hear from him, he's going to release you and give you an assignment, and you got to get ready for that work. What does that readiness look like for you? We can't just be lazy and haphazard with doing whatever it is that we were called to do. We can't just think that, okay, I got an assignment, I'm going to just go out there and do it. No, you got to get prepared. You got to go through a process to do your work. And so the last 3 years, I've been literally feeling like I've been in a stuck place, in a wilderness, to the point where I felt like I was in a fire. And I don't know if y'all have ever been in that place where you just feel like I'm going through a fire and I don't even know why I'm in this fire. Like, this fire ain't fair. Like, what is going on? And so I felt like I've been in a fire. And I want to say towards the end of last year, even after I started push, I'm like, okay, God, you speaking to me about what I need to do with these women, and that's great. But what about the other areas of my life that need some addressing? And not just some addressing, some blessing. Like, what about these other areas of life? Because I feel like I'm going through the fire, and I feel like, to some degree, you ain't there. Like, where are you? You know what I mean? So I asked this question. I was like, where are you? And to my surprise, he was like, I'm right here. Like, I'm in it with you. And it blew my mind, because in my mind, sometimes we think that when we're going through what we consider a fire, like God has completely abandoned us. He just nowhere to be found. And when he told me I'm right here with you, it blew my mind. But it also reminded me of the story of the Hebrew boys. And three of them were thrown in the fire. And when the guards looked into the fire, they were like, but there's a fourth one there. And it was it was God in the fire with them that completely protected them to where when they walked out, you would have never thought they went through a fire. And so sometimes we think that the fire, like, we are being punished. Like, I'm just being punished. It's like, no, not all the time is it punishment unless you just in just complete disobedience. But what if it's for purification? What if it's like, because there are things that are in you and on you that you're not even aware of that have to come off for your next season. And so we got to recognize, like, in my process of becoming rare and not even becoming rare, because you already are rare, but becoming aware that you're rare, you're going to have to go through a process. And in that process, sometimes you're going to have to be purified to do whatever work. And sometimes people think, well, I don't see a need for me to be purified because I'm not, called to do that level of work. But it's like, no, we all need to be purified. Why? Because we've all taken on the things of this world and we've been manipulated into thinking we're something that we're not. You are great. Like, when you understand how great you are, but you don't even tap into your greatness until you tap into your rareness. That's your superpower. And so when I started to realize, like, who I am, I'm like, dang, God has given me this gift to speak. But so much of who we are, we don't even recognize because we can't see ourselves. We can't see ourselves. And so we're looking for other people to tell us who we are. And sometimes we're looking to the wrong people. And the wrong people in the wrong environment is going to keep you stuck. They're going to keep you unaware on purpose that you're rare. And so that's why it's going to be so vitally important that as you get ready, you start looking around and asking yourself, like, am I in the right environment? Maybe you're stuck, and maybe you're going in circles because you're in the wrong environment. Like, maybe we need to take inventory of who's in our lives. That's how we get ready. So we have to get ready for the work, right? There's so many different ways in which you need to get ready. But one of the things you got to figure out is, like, who's speaking into my life? Because whatever it is that you are ingesting, whatever it is that you're allowing in, the influence, the entertainment is informing you on who you are. And this is why you got to take up the charge to program yourself based on what God has said about you. You're rare. And if ain't nobody told you, you got to tell you. So then when we get to the E stands for excellence. We have to execute with excellence. If we are going to become rare and we're going to stand out and we're going to leave a mark on this world and we're going to do what we've been called to do and walk in the fullness of who we are to affect change, like, we have to do things in excellence. God is excellent. He don't do nothing sideways. He don't do nothing just in any kind of way. He's excellent. And so many of us, we are so fearful of putting ourselves out there, putting our work out there, that sometimes we halfway do it. We halfway do it because we're halfway saying yes, we're halfway committed to doing this thing because it's just like, I'ma just, and it's like, ain't nothing gonna get rewarded by that. God says he will reward you, but according to you believing that what he said about you is true. And if you believe that what he said about you is true, then you got to move in excellence. You have to move in excellence. So you have to get to a place where you recognize that I'm rare and my rareness is my superpower. It makes me distinct, and it not only does it make me distinct, it actually draws people to me because everybody is distinct, but everybody trying to be like they the same. But once you start recognizing, oh, that person has my DNA, you start to connect with them. And so when we talk to stylists, like about even marketing yourself, so much of the reason why stylists can't even find the right clientele is because they have yet to find themselves. They trying to be everything to everybody. And that is not the way to attract people. You attract people by finding yourself and being completely you, embracing all of you, right? So when you look in the mirror and you start realizing like, dang, I'm not really loving myself because I'm so critical that everything that makes me different, I deny. Everything that makes me different, like I'm not willing to embrace. And we realize like we have been so hard on ourselves that it keeps us from really being the rare person that we are. It keeps us from being the rare person that we are. So going back to the top, like you have to begin to rehearse the truth over yourself daily. You're rare, right? And then as God begins to show you who you are, and the more you connect with him, the more he's going to start giving you more and more details about who you are. We are always becoming. We are always coming into a knowledge of who we are because we are like, how do I say this? It's almost like an onion that's being peeled. We're becoming more and more whole. We're becoming more and more healed and more authentic to who we are. And the more we do that, you're going to attract people because as you do that, you're going to become more confident. And confidence attracts people. But when we're moving in timidity and halfway believing in what God has showed us about ourselves, like there's no real traction with that. There's no growth in that. And so I want you all to recognize like how rare you are and how important it is and how that is your superpower and how you got to push. You got to push through. And so me doing this women's group and me doing these lives is me saying, God, I trust you and I'm agreeing with what you said about me, even though I don't completely see it all. You feel what I'm saying? Because we want the full picture. We want to see it all, and that's not how things work. We're like, okay, you know what, God, I'm going to be obedient and I'm going to move forward in this if you just show me everything. And you don't get everything. You got to get to a place where you trust the one step he gave you. Don't worry about what's next. Do what's now. Do the now thing, and when you do the now thing and you're faithful over the now thing, then he'll give you the next thing. And so many of us are just stuck because we're waiting for the full picture, and the full picture just never comes. He'll give you glimpses, but you're not going to see it all. And so right now, I think all of you, and we talked about this on the last live, is really figuring out what has he said, or what is the last thing he said to us, and get to doing that. And one of the things that he told me to do years ago, and I mean years ago, was to go live. And I was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and do these pre-record videos. I'm going to go ahead and do these pre-record videos for YouTube, and I'll go ahead and drop those. And he's just like, okay, you can keep on doing what I didn't instruct, but you're not going to see any growth in that because that's not the way. That's not the way. Like my answer is the only answer. And until you do that piece, then nothing's going to happen. So what has he said to you about what you're supposed to be doing? Mine is push. Mine is these lives. And even though I do things from a place of reluctancy, I'm going to do it anyway. So I want you all to understand that you are rare. What's up, Amber? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And the other part of it is this, like, it's going to require you to exercise a whole nother level of faith in order to become who he's called you to be. And what do I mean by that? Like, God is faithful. He is full of faith, right? And in order to even show him that we trust him, that means that we walk by faith. Like so many scriptures we say, we don't even completely even like take into a point where we live it. And we walk by faith and not by sight. But are we really walking by faith if he told us something to do and we keep talking ourselves out of that thing and we decide not to do it? And then we wonder why we have these unfulfilled lives, is because he's called us to be walking on water. He called us to be faith walkers. But we find ourselves stuck because we're unwilling to get out the boat. So he says, without faith, it is impossible to please him. Impossible. Why? Because it's a mark of who he is. So when we start moving in faith, he's like, oh, that's my daughter. Oh, that's my son. Like they're literally showing that they are my children. And so when you think about a parent who has kids, like they mimic by nature their parents, right? And so when we start moving by nature who he is, it's just like, okay, I can bless that. Like this person is pleasing me. But if you're not walking by faith and you're not stepping out and stretching out and doing something that, like, you don't even realize how you're stifling your own growth. You're in a place of just being stuck because you're unwilling to walk by faith. So one of the faith things that you need to embrace is embrace all of who you are. Embrace how you sound, embrace how you look. I think for me, because, you know, being a hairstylist and being a salon owner and being an educator and being in one world of things, and there's been a natural progression from being a hairstylist to all those things, and now God is like, okay, now I need you to shift over into another thing. And I'm like, okay, I felt comfortable moving up that ladder, but now it's like, okay, you want me to do what? You want me to get on here and talk to people and have nothing to do with really a business? But I trust it anyway, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, listen, if I sink or I swim, it's like, well, God, you told me to do that. You told me to do it. So I want y'all to really think about what are the things that makes you rare that you've been sitting on. And I know for me, like, I've always been in this place where I'm just like, God, I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to quote unquote bring a word. Like, that's not who I want to be. And he's just telling me to surrender to who I thought I was supposed to be. Because if every time I open my mouth, this is what comes out, that's who you are. And so when you try to deny it, it's almost like how I say this. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all a story. So I was on a plane a couple weeks ago, and you know, on a plane that you don't have to wear a mask anymore. And so I was wearing my mask because I'm just like, listen, I just had COVID a couple months ago. I'm not going through that again, right? So there were two women who had masks on. So I'm like, bet, I'm gonna go sit right here. So I went and sat between them. And when I say within 20 minutes of the flight, this lady that has the window seat is coughing up a storm. And I'm just like, what are the odds, yo? What are the odds that I would sit by somebody that is just like wilding? So I know she was embarrassed. And if y'all know, anytime that you have tried to keep a cough in, you're like, it's to the point where you're about to combust because you can't hold that in. And so I wanted to look at her just like, ma'am, you just might as well cough because I know like you're trying to suppress it. And you're trying to suppress who you are. And when you're trying to suppress who you are, everybody can see it. Like you're the only one thinking that you're getting away with like disguise it. Like just decide to be who God has called you to be in the fullness of who you are. And so if when I speak, I come off strong, or if when I speak, I come off, I don't even know, whatever it may be, whatever I have like believed in my mind and has judged, and I have literally suppressed it to the point where I'm not necessarily being authentic. Like, I'm not necessarily going to be all of who I've been called to be. And not only that, it's just like, okay, nothing's going to come of that. And so I realized, okay, I think that I've been trying to live up to expectations. And some of you have been trying to live up to expectations of what you think is supposed to be. And so I'm like, okay, God, whatever label you want to put on me as it pertains to being an exhorter, or, you know what I'm saying, being a motivator or whatever, like, that's just who I am. Like, I know one thing about me is God has helped me to help others believe in themselves. That is a gift of mine, right? So anytime I get around somebody and they are being doubt, which is so crazy because I'll be doubtful about my stuff sometimes too, right? But when they are, it's just like I get so hyped up. Like, you don't know who you are? Like, let me help you see who you are. And so you got to pray for people that come around you that are going to help you see that. That not only are going to help you see it, but they're also on their path of becoming who they are too. So again, you got to check your environment. Check who you're allowing speak into your life. And it could be just from a media standpoint. Somebody real says, it has been so smooth these past 4 years, and now I'm being called to move and thrive in a bigger city I've never been told to, and I'm pregnant, so it's scary. Do the scary thing. The breakthrough is in being you and doing the scary thing consistently. We think that we're going to continue to do the same thing over and over again and get a different result. In order to get something different, you have to do something different, but the different is always something that's going to cause us to be uncomfortable, and that's why some people will never even be remembered because they were unwilling to step out on faith. Do the scary thing. And once you start doing it, after a while, you realize, like, it really, in retrospect, when I look back, what was I afraid of? What was I afraid of? We're afraid of the things that seem mysterious. We're afraid of the things that are dark. And the only reason why it's dark is just because God has not given you insight as to all of what's there. So in our mind, we're naturally afraid of the dark because it's just a mystery. But what if you going into this mysterious place is something that's going to make you leave your mark? It's going to make you make history. I always tell this story. When I moved back to Arizona, I was not trying to be in Arizona. And I realized that God was saying to move back, and I was just fighting it with everything I had. And when I moved back, I came back out here with lightweight, it was like a bargain. It's like, God, I'm about to move out there for a year, and if it don't pop off, I'm out, right? So I told him that, and I moved back to Arizona with an attitude. Reluctant, but I still was like, I always say I was like obedient but unwilling still in my heart. And so when I moved back, I didn't want to come back out here just because of like Arizona just being different. But nevertheless, when I look back and I realize, like, dang, that one act of obedience caused me to change a law, caused me to get an Essence magazine, caused me to do all of these things. And I'm thinking to myself, what if I would have never did the scary thing? Or what if I would have never did the thing that God was telling me to do and be obedient in that? Like, I would not be living the life that I'm living now. So many of you are just looking for something that just seems comfortable, or even doing the thing that you think makes sense. And when you're moving with God, it's not going to make sense. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And so, therefore, it's not going to make sense. So we got to take our sense out of it and get in the spirit. For real, for real. So I love you all. I'm going to be back on Monday. Hopefully my video guy will be back. Hopefully he'll be free from, the sickness that he was in. And I really want you all to start asking yourselves, what makes me rare? If I have not become aware of my rareness, is it because of my environment? Am I not walking in my superpower because I don't necessarily know what it is, but because it's being suppressed? It's being suppressed by my friends. It's being suppressed by family members even. It's being suppressed by the things that are around me that are informing me of who I am, that is not even consistent with what God said. And as you do that, you got to start rehearsing the rhema. You got to start getting to the root of like who you really are. So I love you all. Have a blessed night, and I will see y'all hopefully on Monday. That's the goal. I'm gonna see y'all on Monday. So take care.